Welcome to Energy Hub, everybody. My name is Oti Francis, and this is Energy TV. We are an offshoot of energyhubng.com, the one-stop marketplace, digital network for promoting oil and gas products, the best deals, connect and meet buyers and sellers on energyhubng.com today. So before we move ahead, I want you to hit that subscribe button, like and share our content today. Alright, quickly, so today we'll look at access to energy in today's world and how it impacts politics, economics, and society. And with me, we have a seasoned professional in the energy industry, someone with over 30 years experience managing oil and gas companies in Nigeria, played a very important role as Chief Petroleum Engineer, CEO in Nigeria, and he has actually played a very vital role in shaping digital transition in Nigeria's energy industry. And also, he is the co-lead promoter of Energy Hub NG itself. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dr. Felix Amieyeofori. Welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, sir. So it is important with the experience you've had in the industry, it is important to evaluate Nigeria's place in the discussion of energy. And we're looking at something that happened recently, which is a very important development, something that was introduced in 2008, the Petroleum Industry Bill, signed recently, just July 2021, as the Petroleum Industry Act. And because we want to make this very brief, we want to look at the signing of the Petroleum Industry Act by the President Mohammed Buhari. So, sir, what is your overall take on the signing of the PIA? We'll call it PIA moving forward because it is a Petroleum Industry Act, PIA. So, sir, what is your view on this signing?
Okay, thank you so much. As you said, it's been, in the making for quite some time, and everything that did not happen in the industry, especially the upstream, has been blamed, on not signing, assenting to the PIB, now PIA. So investors, operators, stakeholders have all blamed the inactivity or low investment environment on the PIA. And so now that it has been signed, we would believe that the first thing, the blame game will be over.
Okay.
And so everybody now should be confident that there is a framework, regulatory framework for investors, for operators, and for everybody. So we would expect that, not too soon, we should see the industry bouncing back. Though we are under some OPEC production restrictions, COVID, but definitely, the industry should bounce back.
Okay. Now, looking at something that's taking that long, over a decade, something introduced in 2008, taking over at least 11 years, how do you think the industry will react to this whole development? Sudden, but would we say it's timely? What do you think the reactions will be like?
No, excellent. The truth is, everybody has been, it was not just dormant. It's been in discussions in almost every, National Assembly, so it's been on. It's just negotiation is on. And so I think it's a sigh of relief that finally, and even, we have said we cannot get a perfect document. So why try to wait until it is perfect? Regardless of what it is, let us put it on the table. And obviously, there are the amendments. Once you start practicing it, definitely there will be room for amendments. But we need to have something on the table that will guide the industry, and which is what the PIA, assented by the president, has done. So I believe strongly that, especially for investors outside of this country, they will feel fairly or a little bit protected. Of course, there are issues, but that they will say right now we have a framework. we have the fiscal regime, we have documents, we have the legal framework to regulate our activity. I think that is what is going to happen.
Okay. You mentioned something very key, which is the investor's concern. For someone who has been in the industry for a while, and you also have the Nigerian perspective on things, what would you say is one of the major concerns that is probably stalling the entrance of investors, and why are they so worried about investing in Nigeria?
No, okay, Nigeria, is not very hidden. It's there. We have security challenges, especially in the Niger Delta. The country is also battling not only Niger Delta but other pockets of course, the Boko Haram. They are there in the north. Recently, the bandits are. If you watch the media, they have to shut down connectivity over the Zamfara state, so that there will be no communication.
True.
And then so that I saw this morning that the military are homing in on them. So that is a major problem. And so the government is taking the bull by the horn, because if the environment is not secured, investors will be worried. And of course, added that to the PIA. So now that the PIA is off the table, so it's like ticking the mark. So I believe with what the government has done, it will give a little bit of confidence and then so far, politically there has been some, since 1999, what people worry about is how stable is the political environment. Nigeria has been able to transit from one party to another party without going to off and on. So all of those are building the confidence for investors. So they are looking at it. There's another, 2023 is near the corner, but I believe they will just happen on. They did it, we think they will do it again. So the investors' confidence are building. With the PIA, there is confidence.
Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, and recently, I think the private sector groups, they met and had a very full discussion, including the Leaders' Chamber and of Commerce, had a very extensive discussion on how the PIA can really impact participation for private sector players. Now, looking at that, with that in view, specifically, how would you say the PIA will impact the investments in the oil and gas industry, specifically?
No, the PIA is as said, is Petroleum Industry Act. So petroleum is oil and gas. Oil and gas with associated infrastructure, pipelines, of course, people in logistics, contractors, technology providers, service. So it's an industry. It's a very big industry. So everybody now, there is a lot of interdependence. If there is no production, if there is no exploration, obviously the service, technology, and everybody, the logistics, all of them will start going. So, we are, and also remember that Nigeria is working so hard to diversify from the oil and gas. So, obviously, we would expect people to, and we're also into energy transition. So petroleum is oil and gas. So there is a lot of opportunity for Nigerians to go into gas, because Nigerian transition, fuel is gas. You understand? So definitely, and the president and the minister of state have declared that this is a gas year. And of course, Nigeria also have declared we are going into a gas economy. So definitely the private sector will have a lot to do, especially in terms of we are deficit in gas infrastructure. So obviously they will be very useful to come now that the PIA is on, now that the government is fighting security. Definitely the private sector will be the government only regulate, provide environment, And even, of course, the PIA provides an NPC to become more like a commercial private company, not, under the yoke of government, idling on the government. They are not going to be making profit. They are not going to be operating like every other company. So obviously the PIA has provided a platform for very active, very strong private investors.
It is almost becoming very difficult these days to discuss energy without discussing the environmental concerns. These days we have more eco-critics coming up, saying a whole lot about how the exploration impacts communities. We have climate change becoming a very full discourse in itself. So with that in mind, knowing that Nigerian oil and gas industry, or the petroleum industry basically, has always had a little bit of back and forth with its host communities, how would you say there are issues already? Because I know that was also addressed in the Act, where there's a 3% host community trust fund. So in your view, what do you think is the problem around that fund?
No, it's been on. The Niger Delta communities have always, stand out on resource control. Being able to have some level of control on the resources within the region. But of course, it's a federal government, so there has to be some balancing of the act. They asked for 10%. But it came down to 3. And those are the things that, they've set up an implementation committee. Those are the things that there's going to be a lot of engagement to looking at, listen, that we need to do as quickly as possible, generate a lot of revenue, ensure that we are not leaving any of this oil and gas, especially for oil, in the ground when the transition becomes very, very active globally. And so it's going to require a lot of discussions to get the buy-in of the people that listen. We really need to do transition investment. That's what all the majors are doing. They are doing transition investment. People are investing into renewable energy, and you need to generate enough revenue to move into the renewable energy. Renewable energy requires a lot of technology, a lot of investment, and so the discussions will be on. I do not expect it to be just washed off. There will be constant engagement until everybody comes to terms that Nigeria needs to take advantage of this opportunity to shore up capital that will enable it. I was reading, yesterday, Africa will need almost about $140 billion every year to be able to do energy transition. So it requires a lot of capital, outlay. And I know that if there is a mutually respectful engagement, I think they will reach a value.
That's quite exciting. Okay. One of the things, again, that has to do with legislation most times in our kind of space is that people have always wanted to be backed up with execution. Okay, we've taken over a decade, moving back and forth, trying to pass this thing into law. Now that it is fully into law, do you think the PIA will be implemented to the letter to actually reap the potential?
No, I would think the government and the people of Nigeria will have no choice. In the sense that by 2050, which is barely less than 30 years now, oil will still be there, but oil will not be very significant. And if we continue to produce what we are producing, 35 billion barrels of reserve, I do not see us taking advantage of the transition. We may end up leaving some oil. Nigeria have to produce in excess of 34 million barrels. Of course, once the PIA is here, you find people there will be smaller reservation. And so what Nigeria will want to do is to shoot ourselves in the foot by not focusing on implementation. Because implementation is not necessarily implementation of the PIA, which is what it is, but more so to ensure that we are within the track of the energy transition. The longer you delay an effective implementation, the more you risk yourself in playing in the energy transition. If you don't implement it as quickly as possible, you only delay the doom there. But once these guys have put their acts together, they will force you. And you have nobody to blame. So those are the things I believe the president set up an implementation committee. I believe they will have all this in their basket. And listen, guys, if we don't ensure that we take advantage of this regime, we will shoot ourselves in the foot. And then there will be nobody to blame. So I know people are, focused, people want to achieve a good, balancing act, but we should not delay implementation. We just must kickstart implementation, because that is the only way the industry can become active, and that is the only way Nigeria can be looking at producing, because there is refineries that have to take. I'm not sure Nigeria can export 4 million barrels into the global market. Nigeria have to consume part of it. We have to produce and refine instead of importing with the subsidies. All the subsidies issues. We have to get our own refineries. Of course, a few other things that are very significant that will not go away. The petrochemicals have to be effective, fertilizers have to be effective, all of those other, I think so. We just must get it on track. Otherwise, we shoot ourselves in the foot.
A very, very important aspect, which I know many viewers will also be expecting, is with all these laws passed now, for the everyday Nigerian who walks on the streets, who also relies on petroleum resources to, fuel their everyday needs, and how does that PIA really truly act them?
No, it is, for me, it's it's a spillover effect. Unemployment is very high in the country. Number two, for now, the country has not been able to generate enough foreign exchange outside of the oil and gas. And so the naira is north of 500. What that means is this, that every other thing is escalated. Inflation is everywhere. We can't really manage it. And so if the PIA is effective, if implementation is effective, of course there will be a lot of activity upstream, midstream, downstream. And then not only the direct employment by the companies, there will be service companies. Not only the service companies, the communities themselves will be engaged. You understand? And not only that, they will have enough money to do CSR, of course, it's, if you CEPLAT and all that, doing a scholarship. So those are the spillover effect. And then, of course, with more production, not that we should continue to depend on oil and gas FX, but there will be stability, I believe, there will be stability in the foreign exchange. I don't think it will be 500, 600. So the PIA has a lot of goal that to bring in foreign direct investment. Because refineries have capacity to employ people. You understand? Gas infrastructure, a lot of things, auto gas that the government is promoting. So definitely it will go down to everyone. It will touch everyone. And then the underprivileged will also have some benefit if the PIA is implemented timely without the usual politics.
So for the everyday Nigerian, what would you say the Petroleum Industry Act is?
Excellent. Nigeria has been, commercial production 1956. So that's quite some time. So there are a lot of extant, about 16, all of them are just an old one, 1969, so they are really very old, very old, very old. And some of them are really, regardless of their management and name. So what the PIA did was to bring all of this into one document. Number one. Number two, to review it, to be in sync, in alignment with the best practices globally and with current global practices. So we are not struggling with 1969, 1958, 1959, you understand, 1990 amended and all this. So this one is fairly correct. And what it does is that somehow every sector of the industry that have sustained us, has a legal framework in one box, not scattered the way it was. But now, so it's easy. If anything is going to go right or wrong, you have a box to look into. So the PIR will probably say the black box, but it's just now there. You can see. You want to look at the upstream, you want to look at the downstream, you want to look at the midstream. So that is what it is. So it's an updated, coded, coordinated documentation for the Nigerian oil and gas industry.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay. I think it's very important we also quickly, I think it's going to be the last part that we highlight, with your role in the industry for over 30 years, about 3 decades that is. And suddenly, we have the whole world discussing digital transformation, of course, COVID sensibilities and the rest of it. And you are promoting the digital platform. For someone with your experience, with your wealth of experience, what would you recommend for energy professionals, industry players? What do you think? Is there something you've seen that they haven't seen yet?
No, you have no choice. The manual, analog, routinal. When you talk about digital transformation, you also have to talk about the artificial intelligence, robotics, machine learning, which is part of artificial intelligence, deep learning, extended reality, where, digital twin, a lot of things that now you don't have to be at the field. You are here. You don't have to go to the facility. You can bring the facility to your laptop or in visual reality, or you can actually enter into it. You can see it, you understand. And you are here, but you think you are there. So you don't have a choice. Especially with 5G, you don't have a choice. Right now, all engineers have to be digital engineers. You have to learn, because all those manual is gone.
Same time next week, we're also going to be addressing a whole lot of issues in the energy industry, Africa, Nigeria, and of course, the entire world, the rest of the world too. So, thank you very much for having us. Share this video, like, and comment. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get more news on energyhubng.com today.